This conference will now be recorded.
So what I was trying to say, in Ansible, we will deal with some confidential information like passwords, API keys, API tokens. As part of the configuration, you are trying to copy some configuration files where you might be referring some confidential passwords, usernames, or any confidential data. So, and also we will maintain the configuration scripts like playbooks, host inventory, variable files in the version control system. Is it recommended to maintain the confidential data as a human readable format? First of all, no. It is not a best practice. It's a security violation. We should not maintain confidential data in a human readable format, that too in the version control systems again. That too in the version control systems again, right? We should not maintain the confidential data in a human readable format. Then how to deal the confidential data in Ansible? Let's say I have a host inventory. Let's say I have a host inventory. I have a host inventory where I am mentioning my server details and I am mentioning my username, something like this. Let's say I am mentioning password, Ansible underscore password or SSH password, something like this. And I am maintaining this as part of my source code repository. Is it recommended to have something like this? The confidential data in human readable format? No. And also, suppose I'm creating one user, let's say Ansible user. I'm writing this playbook. I'm writing this playbook, let's say. I'm writing this playbook. I'm creating something like this. I'm creating some users with password. This playbook I'm planning to we will maintain in version control system. Is it recommended to have something like this in human readable format? No. Then how to deal this kind of things in Ansible? We have a concept called Ansible Vault. We have a concept called Ansible Vault. Using Ansible Vault, we can encrypt. We can encrypt any file. Using Ansible Vault, we can encrypt any file. That can be any file. That can be your host file, or that can be your playbook, or that can be your variable file, group variable, host variable, or any other file we can encrypt. So if the file is encrypted, even though you have access to that file, if it is in encrypted format, does anyone can understand what is defined in that file if it is in an encrypted format? No one can understand what do we have in that file. So using Ansible Vault, you can encrypt any file. But if I just want to hide this information, is it recommended to encrypt the host inventory files? Is it recommended to encrypt like playbooks if I want to hide this information? No. It is not recommended to encrypt your playbooks, your host inventories. Then how can I handle this one? We can encrypt that one also, but it is not best practice. How can I do that one? Instead of defining like this, can I refer is here as a variable? Can I refer this as a variable? Instead of hard coding this here, can I refer this as a variable? If required, can I pass this variable at runtime also if required? That is one option. Otherwise, can I define this variable in some variable file like maybe group vars, host vars? Suppose this is my group vars. If the password is common for all the servers, can I define that in the group vars all.yml? Something like this. All.yml file. There I will define in a as a variable. I am saying something like this. Something like this. Then can I encrypt this file, variables file, where I am just defining my variables? Can I encrypt this file using Ansible Vault? I can encrypt this variable files using Ansible Vault. Now I want to hide this information also. Let's say this one also, can I define in some variable file, maybe group variables or host variables or normal variable files? You have normal variable files. Then can I encrypt that variable file? And by referring variable here, since it is already in double quotes, you just refer something like this, that variable name, this variable name. So this variable you can define in any variable, normal variable or group variable, whatever it is. Then can I encrypt that variable file to hide that information? Your playbooks, your host inventory are in human readable format. The confidential data is in a variable file. That variable files are encrypted. In that case, if I check in that variable file, if I check in that playbook host inventory, does anyone can understand what is your actual SSS password after encrypting? If I check in using Ansible Vault, I can encrypt. So no one can understand what is there in that host inventory. So let me demonstrate this one. Let me connect to my Ansible server. Yeah. Login. Let me log into my. Let me connect to my Ansible server. Let me switch to Ansible user. Then let's say, first of all, I don't think I have a password based authentication, right, in this machine. So to this machine, just to demonstrate, I'm creating a user with password. I'm creating user is already there. I'm setting the password and I'm enabling the password based authentication. Just to demonstrate this one, I'm going to execute this playbook. So I'm saying all servers. Already is my Ansible machine is able to SSH to all the servers, whatever servers I have in my host inventory. Let's say, as of now, how it was authenticating as of now, if you see. So two servers, it is connecting as Ubuntu user with PEM file. These two servers, how it was connecting already last week, right? I created an Ansible user and I copied the key, SSH key of that Ansible. Now I'm just to demonstrate this one, I'm executing this playbook, which will create the user with password. What is that file name? Install create. Oh, sorry. The playbook name is something like this. There is no installation here. We are not installing. Just the playbook name is like this. We are not installing anything. We are just creating a user. If the privilege escalation is not done in the playbook, I will use -b option. For two servers, already we are getting okay. Why we are getting okay for these two servers? When we are creating a user, Ansible user, in these two servers, we are getting okay. Sudo access, okay. Already created. Already created. So already present. But in other two servers, it has created. Now, this time, guys, please be on mute. This time, will I able to SSH with my username and password for these servers as an Ansible user? Now we created for these machines. If required, can I connect as an Ansible user and that password? Because we have not copied SSH keys for these servers. Something like this. What is my password? 2021 or 21? Okay. So let me do this way. Now let's assume you are trying to use this way of authentication. Now it is common to check in this also in the version control system. Does anyone can understand what is SSH password, what is username to connect to this server? If I check in like this as is, now it will work. It will work. It is able to communicate. We can do whatever installation, whatever you want to do in those servers, we can do that. But it is in a human readable format. It is in a human readable format. We should not check in like this, or we should not maintain like this. Then what I can do, instead of doing this way, I can encrypt this complete host inventory. I can encrypt this complete host inventory, but the most common files which we will encrypt using Ansible Vault are only variable files, not inventory files, not playbooks. So it is not recommended to encrypt inventory or playbook. Instead of that, can I refer this as a variable? In my host inventory also, I can refer variables. Something like this here. I can refer like this as a variable. Anything, SSH password, something like this. SSH password. I can refer. Now I can refer, but did I define this variable anywhere when I'm going to execute any playbook or any command? Is it going to work now? Do you see? Is it working? For those two servers, password has invalid value, which is not defined anywhere. Which is not defined anywhere. Now I can define this in one variable file like group vars, host vars. Now can I define that in a group variable file like all.yml? We have, if the password is common for all the servers same, here I can define something like this: SSH underscore password DevOps@2021, something like this. Something like this. Now it will refer when you are executing any playbook or any command, it is taking that variable and connecting. Do you see this time is it working? Yes, but again we are going to maintain our group wars, host wars also in version control system, but do I still have this in a human readable format, this variable file? Then can I encrypt this file using Ansible Vault so that no one can understand? Using Ansible Vault, we can encrypt any file, but most common files which we will encrypt are variable files. That can be normal variable file or group variable file or role variable file, like that. Now we have some commands. We have some commands to encrypt that file, something like this. Ansible Vault encrypt, Ansible Vault create, Ansible Vault decrypt, Ansible Vault edit, Ansible Vault view, Ansible Vault rekey. We have some commands. Using these commands, we can encrypt. So Ansible Vault encrypt that file name, whatever file you want to encrypt, whatever file I want to encrypt. Now, what this will do? It will encrypt existing file. Encrypt existing file. We already have a file that will encrypt that file using Ansible Vault. What we can do using this one? Create. It will create the file. Then we can define the data. Define the data. Once we save, it will be encrypted. Once we save that file, it will be encrypted, which means if I want to create and encrypt, what command I can use? If I want to create file and encrypt that file, what command I can use? Ansible what? Create. It will create the file, then it will encrypt. It will create the file, then it will encrypt. But I already have a file. I already have a file. This file is already there. I want to just encrypt. What command I can use? The existing file. I want to encrypt using Ansible Vault. So I can encrypt. So I can encrypt using this command, Ansible Vault encrypt, something like this. You see, as of now, is it in human readable format as of now? Yes. Now I will execute this command, Ansible Vault encrypt, Ansible Vault encrypt, this complete path. I'm giving complete path because I'm in a different directory. I'm giving complete path. If I'm in this group wars directory, I can just give file name. If I'm in this directory, I can just give a file name. So I'm encrypting. Whenever we are encrypting or whenever we are creating vault files, whenever we are encrypting the vault files, we need to set one vault password. We need to set one vault password. We need to set some password, vault password. So that is required when you are executing a playbooks or when you are executing a commands, that vault password is required. Okay. So let me do this. I'm encrypting. it is asking me to set some vault password of your choice. You can set whatever password you want to set of your choice. You can set. Let me set my vault password. Confirm this vault password. I got a message, encryption is successful. Now, if you see, now can anyone understand this one? What data we have in this file after encryption? If I check in this one also, if I check in also, does anyone can understand? No. Now we have encrypted. Since we are encrypting one file, that file is used directly or indirectly when you are executing a playbook or command. Now I am trying to just do this SSH test. What it is saying? Why I am getting this message? When I am trying to do any SSH test or when I am executing any playbook, what does it mean? What does it mean? Now install HTTPD, because directly or indirectly that encrypted file is being referred. So how that encrypted file is being referred while executing this command? Because in host inventory, am I referring the variable? In host inventory, I am referring the variable. In host inventory, am I referring the variable? One variable? Yes. Is that variable is being defined in one file and that is encrypted? That variable is defined in file, group vars file, that is being referred. Does Ansible can understand what is your actual value of that variable because that is encrypted? Ansible is not able to understand that variable, what is the value. Then do we really need to decrypt again to run the playbook or command? Not required. You no need to decrypt. There is an option. You pass the vault password. You pass the vault password, it will understand. Using that vault password, it will read that variable and understand. You no need to decrypt. If you decrypt again, there is no security, right? Again, it is not every time you need to decrypt, encrypt, decrypt, encrypt. You should not do that. So you just need to pass one vault password. It is saying attempting to decrypt, but no vault secrets found, no vault password found. There are some options we can pass. One is hyphen ask hyphen vault hyphen pass. You ask me the vault password. You ask me the vault password. I will give the password. So I'm saying I'm using this option. So I'm giving my vault password. It is using that vault password to read that variable and process. This time it is fine. But does it decrypted in the background? Does it decrypted that whatever file we have encrypted? Is it decrypted? No. It is just using that vault password to read that variable, read that file, encrypted file, vault file. This is one option. Now, when I execute a playbook also, any playbook, it is referring host inventory. There we have some variable which is encrypted. Here also, can I use this option? Hyphen ask hyphen vault hyphen pass. Then you give the vault password. Then is it using that vault password to read those variables and process your playbooks or commands? Yes. This way we can maintain. Now if I check in my playbook, my inventory, does anyone can understand? Suppose in this playbook also, can I check in like this? Is it recommended? Suppose I have playbook like this, not recommended. So here, can I refer this one also as a variable? Already the variable has been defined, SSH underscore password, something like this. This variable has been already defined. This variable has been already defined in our group variable file that is already encrypted. Now, if I have like this, right? If I check in, does anyone can understand now? No. Now, if I execute this playbook, ask vault pass, it is going to take that variable from the that variable file, group variable file, something like this. One second. So invalid literal, somewhere I am using. I think variable name is not correct. One second. Cat /etc/ansible /hosts ssh underscore password. In my playbook, what I am referring? Ideally, it should be an issue. Already we have this in double quotes. We should not give double quotes again. Let me try once. One second. What it is trying to say, let me see. Invalid literal for int with base 10, module std error. Okay, let me try. One second. Since this is already in double quotes, one second. If I give like this, it won't understand. Let me try once. If I try this, it won't understand, but let me give a try. Because these versions are keep getting changed, I need to verify. If I give in single quote, that will be taken as to string. Okay, I'll confirm this. I think something is updated in the latest version. Earlier, we used to just refer like this. Because this is already in double quotes, again, I should not give a double quote. So I'll confirm this. But if you understand the concept here, if I am referring as a variable, and if that variable file is encrypted, does anyone can understand if I check in this one also? Now, host inventory I am checking. Here I am referring as a password, and suppose I am referring as a variable. I'll confirm this one because maybe in the latest Ansible version something got updated here. Earlier version it used to work like this. Now, if I check in this one also, does anyone can understand what is your actual password which you are trying to set using playbook? No, no one can understand. Now, here, here, I can define a variable and I can refer that variable. If I directly give this one, this user module will not take. User module will not take. User module, your password to be hashed. Something like this. You need to hash that password, then only it will take. If you directly give normal password here, it will not consider. You need to hash that password, then only this user module will take. So that's why we are taking the password from variable that we are passing it to this method, hash method. So it is going to hash your password and set. Okay. So that is how user module works. Now, if you see this approach, whenever I am executing any playbook or any command where I am dealing with encrypted files, where I am dealing with encrypted files, where I am dealing with encrypted files, do I need to pass that password? Ask-vault-pass, right? So we need to pass this vault password. But if you see, it is not encrypting that variable, it is encrypting the file. Understand the concept there. It is not encrypting your password. Vault is not encrypting your password. Vault is encrypting your file. File is encrypted, not your password. So file is encrypted. Does anyone can understand? Whoever see that vault encrypted file? No. But Ansible required that vault password to read that variable. So it is going to read that at runtime. It is going to decrypt at runtime and it will get the actual values and process. But it is not decrypting anywhere. It is not decrypting is anywhere. It is vault password is like a secret. Now it is not decrypting. When I am using that option at runtime, I mean to say while execution time, it is reading that password with the help of that vault secret. It is reading that password from the encrypted file. Now I have to use this option every time. Suppose same command I want to trigger from some automation, some pipeline, let's say from Jenkins or some other script. I want to trigger this playbook. I am dealing with encrypted files. Do I need a human intervention here? Do I need a human intervention here? Yes. But how to deal in automation? I don't want human intervention here. First, let me clarify some questions. Someone was asking, if we have an encrypted variable file in host node, will it stay encrypted in slave nodes? Am I copying those files? Am I copying those files, Abhishek? Those are variable files, not your templates, not your files. Those are just variable files. Are we copying those variable files to your machines? First of all, Ansible is not a master slave architecture. Ansible is not master. Your machines are not slaves. Ansible is one machine. Your machines are like your hosts are normal machines. Using Ansible, we are just configuring those machines. If something goes wrong with your host machines, does Ansible will do anything? First, understand Ansible is not a master slave architecture. It is nothing to do with master and slave here. Ansible is just one machine. Using that machine, we are configuring another machine. It is not a master slave architecture. And we encrypted the variable files. We are not copying the files. Are we copying those variable files to your host machines? No. Those variables we are referring in the playbooks are in the templates. Those variables we are referring in the files and templates. If you see now, in my this playbook also I am referring one variable, right? Let me show that. So let's say this this env this name, let's say this name also I have defined in the that encrypted file, Mithun, that group wars file. That group wars file I have that name, okay? And is that name variable is being referred in my template here, in my template. The template is nothing but the index.html. That index.html, this index.html, I am referring that name variable. Now I am executing this playbook. I am executing this playbook now. I am executing that playbook. It is copying the template. In the template, I am referring a variable. That variable is defined. That variable is defined in the somewhere in the group where. I think it is not defined. It is commented. Okay. So let me do this. Let me define that variable. I will explain this command, guys. I will explain this command because that name variable is not defined anywhere. What variable? Name variable is there. Okay, location. There is another variable, it is referred in the template, location. That location variable is not there. That location variable is not there. Let me define another variable called location. Now these two variables I am referring in this template. These two variables I am referring in this template. If you see, one second. If you see in this template, I am referring these variables, name and location. But where I have defined that variable? I have defined that variable in my group wars, that variable file. But is this file is encrypted? When I see the normal cat, is that file is encrypted? Does anyone can understand what variables we have, what data we have in this file? No. Now I am running that playbook. Now it is copying the template into the machines. In that template, I am referring a variables. That variable file is encrypted. Now when I go and access that server, that index.html, public. Now can I see this was defined in that encrypted file, this was also defined in that encrypted file, which means we are just encrypting the file to hide the confidential data. But when it is processing, it is copying it is using that actual variable whatever you have defined. Is everyone clear? Because you have some doubt around there. Now I was asking one more question. Does this require human intervention when I am executing like this? If I am dealing some vault files, some intervention, human intervention is required. Now this cannot be used when I am dealing with automation. Now how to use without human intervention? There is one more option here. -vault password file. You can create one file in this machine, in this controller machine. in this controller machine, you can create one file where you will have a vault password, something like this. Vault pass, something like this. This is my vault password. This is my vault password, nothing else. Now, while executing a playbook or command, I can use this option, hyphen hyphen vault hyphen password hyphen file, hyphen hyphen vault hyphen password hyphen file, the path of the file. This is where I have the file. Now, what Ansible does? What Ansible is doing? Is it asking me to type that vault password? No. It is taking the password from that file. Now Arvind is asking one good question, but vault password is in text format. But that vault password, I will not check in the version control system that I can maintain in this server using file permissions. Can I restrict that access to only this user, Ansible user, as a which user I am executing that commands or playbook? Will I able to restrict that? That is one option. Otherwise, if you are doing automation, can I have that vault password as a secret text in Jenkins? One more option, if you are using automation. Can I have that vault password as a secret text in Jenkins? Then on the fly, can I create one temporary file in my pipeline on the fly in my pipeline in my something like this? On the fly, can I create that file in my pipeline wherever, something like this? Then in the next stage or next step, can I use something like this, hyphen hyphen vault hyphen password hyphen file, that file what I created on the fly in my pipeline, on the fly whatever I have created in my pipeline. Once this is done in my pipeline, again if required, can I remove that file if required in your Jenkins workspace? If required, can I remove that file? I am getting the vault password from Jenkins secret. I hope you know what is Jenkins secret. In Jenkins, you can create a secrets, right? You guys already done. Then in my pipeline, can I do this way to create a file out of that password, that secret? I can use like this, then I can remove like this. Or you can have in the Jenkins server or whatever controller machine, you can have that file and apply the file permissions. Will you able to do this way? If you don't want to reveal that password also to anyone, your vault password, this is how you can do. You need to apply all the concepts, all the tools, whatever you are learning to achieve some task. That is actual learning. I keep saying, don't by by heart any command, don't blindly execute, do this, do this, do this. Okay, step one, execute this, step two, execute this. Don't learn that way. So you know Ansible, you know Jenkins. Then will you able to integrate Ansible with Jenkins if you want to trigger a playbooks, configurations, deployments, whatever it is from Jenkins? Will you able to trigger by using all those concepts? Now in my Jenkins, if I have this playbook, if I have my host inventory, if I have my group variables as part of version control system in my Jenkins workspace, if I clone that project, will it have a host inventory? Will it have a playbook? Will it have a group variables, host variables also? From version control system, it can clone the playbooks and do this. Is clear, guys, how to deal with this confidential information in Ansible? Abhishek is asking if I have to use these variables in some other machine, how it work? Still, you are not clear. If you have to use these variables in other machine, or your variable file is in some other machine. Abhishek is asking one question. If I have to use these variables in some other machine, how it works? Or your question is, suppose I have this variable file in some other machine. If this file is in other machine, then what you can do? You should be able to answer. If this file is in other machine, first of all, why you need to maintain in other machine? That is up to you, why you are maintaining in other machine. But if the file is in other machine, what we can do? How can I get that file to my Ansible machine? I explained one module also last, I think first day or second day. If the file is in other machine, how can I fetch that file to local machine? We can use fetch module. We can use fetch module to fetch the file from other machine to this machine. But if you are maintaining everything in a GitHub, if you are maintaining everything in a GitHub, in your pipeline, if you have you will clone that code, you will clone that repo. So does your playbooks, your var files, your group vars, your host vars, if you check in everything, and your host inventory, if everything you are maintaining in a version control system, when you clone that, does everything will be part of your Jenkins workspace? Then can I execute a playbooks using these variables, using against this inventory in pipeline also if required? Yes, that's what you can do. Now let's come back on this topic. Now I have a encrypted file. Now I want to modify some variables in that file. How can I modify? And who can modify? That is encrypted. How can I modify that file? Now, if I do a normal VI, will it work? Will I able to do a normal VI? If you are Linux environment, or if you are using Windows laptop, you can edit, you can open with any editors. Will it work? No. Then how can I edit? We have some options here. One option is decrypt. You decrypt, then edit, then encrypt. But it is like a round. First you need to decrypt, then normally edit, then again encrypt. Decrypt, edit, and again encrypt. I don't want to do that way. Do I have direct option where I can edit that without decrypting? Yes. So I can use this one, Ansible Vault Edit. But who can edit? Does anyone can edit? Or the guy who knows the vault password? They can only edit. Whenever I am editing that encrypted file, if you see, the guy who knows the vault password, they can only edit. So it is asking me to type the vault password, then I can modify whatever I want to modify. I want to modify something, any other variable, I can modify. I have edit like this. Once I save that one, do you see still that is in decrypted format? Sorry, that is in encrypted format. Yes. So we can edit like this. If I want to see in a human readable format, I don't want to edit. I want to see just human readable format. What is there in that one? What option we can use? There is an option called Ansible Vault View. Again, who can view in a human readable format? with password. Who knows the password, they can only see in a human readable format. I'm just viewing, which means does this file is decrypted? Which means does this file is decrypted when I use this option, view option? No. I can just see in a human readable format. Now, if I want to permanently decrypt, I am not dealing with any confidential data. I don't want to unnecessarily maintain that encrypted format. I'm not dealing any confidential data, let's say. Then if I want to permanently decrypt that file, then we have an option called decrypt. We have an option called decrypt. So that will be in a human readable format. If the file is in a normal format, you are not using in a encrypted format, then do I need to use these options? Vault password file or ask vault pass if no variable file, no file is being encrypted using Ansible vault, then this option is not required. Now, what is this rekey? What is this rekey? What this rekey does? We can reset the vault password. We can reset the vault password. We can reset. But who can reset again? It is going to ask that existing password. It is going to ask that existing password. If I say rekey, it will ask existing password, then I can set the new password. Rekey. Give me your password, then set the new password. Set the new password. If you lost this one, right, you cannot reset this. You cannot reset this one. So this you maintain in using some password manager apps will be there, right? So you can somehow you need to maintain this one. Okay. Now we can reset. Then if you have reset that password, you have to use that updated password. This is my new vault password. And for each file we need to set the vault password. Whatever variable file you are encrypting, right? For each file, you need to set the password. So instead of setting different vault password for each variable file, make sure or set the same vault password so that it will be easy to remember for all the variable files. Whatever files you are encrypting using Ansible vault, maybe set the same vault password so that it will be easy for you to remember. So is everyone clear? What is Ansible vault? How to use Ansible vault in Ansible? Okay. So it is very simple. It is very simple. It is not much complex concept. Sometimes in the interview they will ask one direct question: how do you deal with confidential data in Ansible? How do you deal with confidential data, or how do you manage the confidential data in Ansible, right? So what is the answer for that? Ansible vault. Using Ansible vault, we can achieve that one. So let's continue with next topic: Ansible roles. Ansible roles. Ansible roles. What is Ansible role? Anyone has any idea? Just whatever you know, feel free to answer. Anyone has any idea what is Ansible role? Feel free to give whatever you know. If you are already heard something like this, what is Ansible role? Feel free to give answers in the Skype group only. This meeting chat. I'll be back in 1 minute. Try to give your answers. I will be back in 1 minute. Okay, so we'll continue. So role is not like the way we call it as a role. Like a role is not related to the permissions here. In Ansible, Ansible role is nothing to do with like permissions or you are giving some permissions to someone. It is not like that. Ansible roles also again we will use for doing the configurations, but in a proper way. Proper way. Okay. So with more complexity in requirement, with more complexity in requirement, with more complexity in requirement, if you write everything in a playbook like variables, tasks, and other things, we have a complexity in understanding the playbook. If I have lot of complex requirement, if I write everything in a single playbook, all my tasks, variables, handlers, and everything, does it have a better readability? Do we have a better readability of the code for complex requirements if I keep writing everything in a single file? No. Will it have a better reusability? Same configuration, some other team, some other project, they also have a same requirement. If you keep writing everything in a same file, will they able to reuse as per their requirements? Better shareability, code sharing? No. And code maintenance. It is very difficult to maintain the code if you write a lengthy code. So to solve these problems, Ansible has a concept of roles. Role is nothing but again set of tasks. Role is nothing but again set of tasks, set of variables, set of handlers. Roles also is used to the configurations again, but in a efficient way. In a efficient way. Before I go for a roles, I forgot to explain handlers. I forgot to explain handlers. By looking at this, I missed this one. So first I will explain what is difference between tasks and handlers. Then I will go for a roles. Okay. So the way we have a tasks, we have a handlers also. We have a handlers also in Ansible. Definitely, sometimes in the interview, they are going to ask what is the difference between tasks and handlers. What is the difference between tasks and handlers? So, task, you already know task. Task is nothing but some configuration which we want to execute on the host machine. Task, you already know. Task is nothing but something which you want to perform on the host machine. So by default, all the tasks, all the tasks will be executed one after the other. One after the other. In which order it is executing? From top to bottom order in the playbook. By default, is all the tasks are getting executed now? Yes, all the tasks are getting executed. Similarly, we can have a handlers like this. We can also have a handlers like this. The way we have a tasks, we can also have a handlers. We can also have a handlers. What is handler here? Handlers also special kind of a tasks. Handlers also handler also special kind of a task. Handlers is like is a special kind of a task. Handlers also special kind of a tasks, but handlers will not be executed by default. Handlers will not be executed by default. Executed by default. So then how it will work? How this handler will be executed? If I just define like this handlers will not be executed by default. So some task has to notify in the sense trigger some task has to notify or trigger the handler. Some task or tasks. Some task has to notify the handler. If the task is changed, if the task is changed, if the task which is notifying, if the task which is triggering, the task which is triggering, right? The task which is notifying is changed, then only handler will be executed. Then only handler will be executed. Handlers are special kind of tasks. Handlers will not be executed by default. Some task has to trigger or notify the handler. The task which is triggering is changed, then only handler will be executed. Again, handlers will be executed at the end of the play. Handlers will be executed at the end of the play. End of the play in the sense after executing all the tasks. After executing all the tasks. If you see, I have a handler like this. Does this handler will be executed by default? No. Some task has to notify the handler. If you observe, do we have some task? Do we have any task which is notifying the handler? Here, yes. Which task is notifying? Which task is notifying the handler out of these tasks? Which task is notifying the handler out of this one? This disable or enable. I think this is actually enable. It is not disable. This enable password based authentication. This task, this task, this is the name of the task. This task is notifying the handler. Again, if this task is not changed, even though I am notifying this handler, does this handler will be executed? If there is no change in this configuration, again, does this handler will be executed? No. If this task is changed, then only it will be executed. And again, will it execute immediately if I have some other tasks? After this also I have some other tasks. After this also I have some other task. Some just any task. I have some dummy task, let's say. I have some dummy task here. Now, here I am notifying the handler. Does it mean once this task is done, does it mean it will execute this handler, then it will execute this task? Does it mean it is going to work like that? No. As I told, handlers will be executed. Handlers will be executed at the end of the play. So handlers are special kind of a task. Handlers will be executed if some task is notifying the handler at the end of the play. Now, handlers is siblings of task. Handlers are sibling of task, which means the order doesn't matter. Can I define handlers here? Can I define handlers here and task later? Handlers are siblings of tasks. I can define anywhere. Now, if this task is not modified, this task is not changed, then does this handler will be executed? No, it won't be executed. Now, if this task is failed, if this task is failed, if this task is failed, then does this handler will be executed? No. Okay. Not only this task, If this task is failed, first of all, it will not go to this task, right? So it won't work. So in what type of use cases, what type of things I can define as a handlers? If you understand, do I need to unnecessarily restart some service if there is no change in the configuration? I can have this as a task also. I can have this as a task also. But do I need to unnecessarily restart that service if there is no change in the configuration? Not required, right? Whenever there is a change in the configuration, whenever there is a change in the configuration, if this configuration has to reflect, then only I need to restart. Then only I need to restart. I don't want to unnecessarily restart my service. That can be any service if there is no change in the configuration. Then can I go with these handlers to achieve that kind of a requirement? So we can handle this one. Uh, 1 second, guys. Bear with me. Lot of background noise from my side only. I am in my village, my native. So hens are making some noise in my home. Just give me a second. Definitely. Give me 1 second. Huh? Okay, guys, I'll continue. Uh, so to handle that kind of a requirement, okay. So if there is a change in the configuration, then only I want to restart some process, some service. Then I can do with handlers. Similarly, like we are configuring Tomcat. Let's say we are configuring Tomcat. I am trying to update my server.xml, or I am trying to update my use Tomcat users.xml. Does that requires to restart your Tomcat to reflect the changes like server.xml, users.xml? So in that case, can I notify the handler to restart the Tomcat from the task where I am updating server.xml or user.xml? So we can do that way. Handlers. Now this one also, let's say, let me take this playbook. Let me take this playbook. Let me take this playbook. So here, I want to restart SSHD. Let's say I want to restart SSHD. If I have it as a task, if I have it as a task, irrespective any configuration is changed or not, will be restarted? If I have state as restarted, whether any configuration is changed or not changed, it will always restart, right? Suppose if I have it as a task. Now let me execute this playbook. If you see, if I'm having that as a task, always that will be restarted. I don't want to do that. Always I don't want to restart this one. Unless until there is a change in the configuration, then only I want to restart. Then can I have that as a handler instead of task? Instead of task, I can have it as a handler. Now let me have it handler as a handler. Let me have it as a handler instead of task. Here, I'm just having like this. Handlers. The way we have a task, handlers. Now I'm just having a handler. If you see, does it executing by default now? Since I make that as a handler, if you see, it is not getting executed, that one. Then how that handler will be triggered? Do I need to notify from some task? I need to notify maybe some task in the sense wherever you are updating your configuration. So notify something like this, your handler name, notify your handler. Now, does this task is notifying the handler? Yes. But if you see, if you see, is that even though I'm notifying, is that handler is getting executed now? Even though I'm notifying that handler from this copy task, is that handler is getting executed? No. Why it is not executed? Because is this task is changed? Is this task is changed? Is this task is modified? No. Now, let me pass some variable at runtime because I am referring variable as part of this task. As part of this task, I'm copying one file using template module. In that template, I'm referring one variable. I'm passing one variable at runtime, something like this. So since there is a change in the variable, does the task will be changed? Does the task will be executed now? Hyphen extra extra hyphen vars. So I am passing that variable. Since the task is changed, the task will notify the handler. Then his handler is going to restart that. Now you see this copy task is changed. Then do you see is that handler got triggered? So this way, can I handle those restarting the services configure? Whenever there is a change in the configuration, I want to restart some service, some process, like that can be any process. Can I use this concept? Handlers. Is everyone clear, guys? What is the difference between task and handler? So this way, we can use handlers. As I again told, if I have some other task after that handler, again if I have some other task, right? Does the handler will be executed immediately after notifying? Suppose I am having some other tasks here. I have some other task again, just some dummy task. I am using debug module. Now I have this. Okay. So if you observe, now I am again changing the variable so that the task will be executed. Handler will be executed. If you see, this task is notifying the handler. But if you see, is it executed immediately, that handler? No. After finishing all the tasks, then only handlers will be executed. So this is how handlers will work. Okay. Now let's come back to the roles. Let's come back to the roles. Roles are again nothing but a configurations. Roles are again nothing but a configurations. Instead of writing everything in a single playbook, instead of writing everything in a single playbook, you have a lot of complex requirement like this. Let's say, let me take this one, very simple playbook only. Suppose I have a lot of configurations to do. If I write everything in a single playbook, do I have a better readability? Suppose I am defining my variables in this, something like this. I am defining my variable, something like this. and I have my tasks. Lot of tasks are there. If you have a complex requirement, I have a handlers are there. I'm having a templates. I'm having a templates as part of my task. I'm copying the files. I'm copying the templates. If I write everything in a single YML, single playbook, does it have a better readability, better maintenance, code maintenance? If I take very huge requirement, no, it will not have a better readability, shareability, and code maintenance. So to solve this problem, Ansible has a one more concept called roles. Roles are nothing but set of configurations, set of tasks again, set of tasks, handlers, we can execute handlers, okay? Roles can be used in playbooks. Using roles again, we can do the configuration. Using roles, we can do the configurations. But when I go for a roles, we will have a better readability, predefined framework, predefined structure. So when I go for a roles in Ansible, we have a predefined directory structure in which I can define roles in one file, variables in one file, tasks in one file, handlers in one file. Like that, we can maintain in a predefined directory structure. So I can create a role using one one software or one concept called Galaxy. What is Ansible Galaxy? So Ansible Galaxy is one more component where we can create a roles. We can share the roles with third-party people also. We can upload our roles to the repository and we can download roles from repository also, like that. So using Ansible Galaxy, we can manage the roles. Roles are nothing but again tasks. Using roles, we can do some configuration. We can perform specific task. We can perform specific task using roles again, but in a efficient way. Now, if I want to create role, I can use something like this: Ansible Galaxy init role name. So this will initialize the role, which means it will create a directory structure, predefined directory structure. I don't want to do everything like this in single YML, right? For this requirement, I can create a role, HTTPD role. So using this playbook, what I'm trying to do? Using this playbook, what I'm trying to do? I am trying to configure HTTPD. So instead of writing everything in a single YML, single playbook, I can create a role for this requirement, like HTTPD role or Tomcat role, like that. So if I execute this way, Ansible Galaxy init that role name, whatever name you want to give, I can give some meaningful name, HTTPD. So the moment I execute this command, it will create a directory structure. It will create a directory structure. We have a directory structure like this, HTTPD. Within that, you have a defaults folder. Here you have some file called main.yml. You have one folder called vars. Within this folder, you have a file called main.yml. Again, you have a folder called tasks. Within that, main.yml. You have a handlers folder, main.yml. You have again something like this, files folder, templates folder, meta folder. Again, with meta folder, you have a main.yml, something like this. So predefined directory structure and files. Now here, for this requirement, whatever variables I am using, where can I define those variables in this directory structure so that we will have a better readability? So which folder where I can define these variables? Here I am referring some variables like this. Those variables I can define in the defaults folder, or in the vars folder. Both are for vars only. The default folder also, here we can define the variables. Vars folder, this file also we can define the variables. Both are for variables only. But which one will take the precedence? If I define in the main this defaults folder file variables, vars folder main.yml, which one will take the precedence out of these two? This one, vars. Vars will take the precedence, not the defaults. Vars will take the precedence. Both are for variables. Now whatever handlers I have, where I can define these handlers, whatever handlers I have in this handlers folder, in the role, right? I am talking about role. In the handlers folder, in the main.yml, I can define only handlers. Whatever tasks I have, if I'm using role, where can I define all these tasks in this role directory structure? Where I can define all these tasks. Here you have a task folder. In the task folder, you can define it in this here. Now, you are copying some templates using template module as part of this requirement, as part of this role. You are copying some templates using template module, where I can maintain all those template files. Whatever files you are copying using template module, where I can maintain the template files in the templates folder. In the templates folder, you can maintain all your templates. Templates are nothing but whatever you are copying using template module, where you are referring the variables. Whatever files I am copying using normal copy module, normal files, not the templates, then where can I maintain that files, normal files, if I am copying any? In the files folder. This metadata, the name itself is saying metadata. What is this metadata? Information about that role. Who is the author of that role, right? For what requirement you are using this role, kind of a data about that role. So if I go with this, you are splitting your one playbook into multiple files, different files. So do we have a better readability? Do we have a better readability? All my variables are in this folder, this file, tasks in this one, handlers in this one. So if I want to modify my variables, do I need to touch other files? This task file, handlers file, if I want to modify, no, right? I no need to touch this one. Will it reduce the syntax issues? Will it reduce the, it will solve the code maintenance problem, maintaining the code, small piece of code? Yes. So you are breaking that single YML into a multiple YMLs. Each folder can hold some values. These are only for variables. This is only for tasks. This is only for handlers, right? You no need to change all other files, only the variable file. Now, how can I refer this variable, this role in my playbook? Your actual playbook will be very simple. App servers become, if you want to do the privilege escalation, here instead of writing like this, what I can do? I can refer something like this: roles, that role name. Is your playbook is very simple, just this much. But where are the tasks? Where are the handlers? Where are the variables? All these are part of this role. All this part of this role here. Inside this role, we are writing all these things. So this way, we can have a better readability, code maintenance, and everything. So in the templates folder, we can maintain the templates. In the templates folder, we can maintain the templates. Does it needs to be ended with dot that Jinja extension? Not required. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory. .j2. But the standards, as per the standards, you will have something like this, Jinja, something like this, as per the standards. Even though you have this extension, if you are copying using template module, it will copy like this. But this indicates basically that is Jinja template. This .j2 indicates that it is a Jinja template, but it is not mandatory to have extension with .j2. Now, if I go for a roles, do I have a better readability, shareability? Suppose some other project has same requirement, some other team has same requirement. Can they use in their playbook that role if we share this role with them? Yes. We have a better readability, better code maintenance. Okay. So we can go with roles. For each project, we will have a role. It is not like each project, it is for each requirement. Suppose I have this requirement, configure Tomcat. Instead of writing everything in a playbook, single playbook, can I create a role for this requirement? Whatever variables I am using for this requirement, that in this folder, tasks in that respective role folder, Tomcat, whatever task I want to perform to configure task, I can have here. Whatever templates, Tomcat users.xml, server.xml, if you are copying those files, variables, handlers, like this. Suppose I have other requirement, like maybe I want to configure Jenkins, or I want to install MySQL. I want to configure a database like MySQL. Whatever task you want to have, perform to do this, can I have as a separate role? So can I use these roles in my playbook? Something like this. Something like this. As per your requirement, you can use that role. So this is how we can use the roles. So tomorrow, I'll just show that how to convert this playbook into a role. I don't want to perform this way. I want to do this using roles. So tomorrow we'll see how to create a role for this requirement, HTTPD requirement. After that, I will explain dynamic inventory. What is dynamic inventory? How it works, the dynamic inventory. So we'll continue tomorrow. This is also very important, dynamic inventory. That's it for today, guys. Tomorrow, Ansible will be done. So from next class, I mean to say from Thursday, I will start AWS. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'll continue tomorrow. Anyone has any question before I stop the session for today? Feel free to ask any question if you have. Otherwise, I'll stop the session today. We'll continue tomorrow. But make sure you are practicing, guys. That is my request. Make sure you are attending all the sessions. Make sure you are doing assignments. Make sure you are practicing. And whenever you are getting any question, feel free to ask in the group. Skype group is created for that one only. So it will be easy for you to understand. If you are not attending, if you are not doing the assignments, if you are not practicing, then you will not able to understand what is DevOps, what is Ansible, how to use Ansible, right? You will not able to crack interviews, you are not able to manage your work. If you attend all the sessions during this complete course, you will be easily able to crack the job. You can clear interview yourself. You can manage your work also. You no need any support to manage your work also. You can manage yourself. That much extensively we are covering all the tools, whatever we are discussing here. Thank you, guys. I'll continue tomorrow. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.